Welcome to Children's Story Hour with Madison Emehel. May God bless you and may you enjoy this time of exploration as you listen to this compilation of short stories. The Boy Who Changed the World, authored by Andy Andrews, read by Madison Emehel. The Boy Who Changed the World.
I want to tell you a story about the boy who changed the world. His name was Norman Borlaug. Norman lived on a farm in Iowa. He loved to play hide and seek with his little sisters in their father's cornfields. Norman was tall and skinny, with hair so light it looked like the silk that sprouted from the ears of corn. Norman was very good at hiding in the cornfields. Norman tiptoed quietly so his sisters couldn't hear him. He crept along until he was just about to catch them. "Gotcha!" The girls giggled and squealed. "Now you hide, Norman." Norman ran to hide in the field, careful not to knock down any corn stalks. Just yesterday his father had reminded him, "You know, son, we're blessed to have all this corn. There are many people in the world who do not have enough to eat." What would it be like to be hungry all the time? Norman wondered as he looked at the endless rows of corn. There has to be a way this corn can feed the hungry people, he thought. Right then and there, Norman decided to change the world. Norman learned everything he could about plants. When he was grown, he worked for a man named Mr. Wallace. Mr. Wallace said, "Norman, I want you to use what you learned in school to make special seeds. Those seeds will grow into super plants and feed more people than ordinary plants." To make the special seeds, Norman had to go to faraway places and work in the rain and summer heat, but he never gave up. Finally, Norman developed the special seeds that grew into super plants. Norman's special seeds of corn and wheat and rice were sent all over the world. Those special seeds grew into super plants that fed the hungry people, just like Norman dreamed about as a boy. And guess what? Norman saved more than 2 billion people from starving. 2 billion. It's true Norman was the boy who changed the world. Or maybe it was a boy named Henry. I want to tell you a story about the boy who changed the world. His name was Henry Wallace. Henry's father was a professor, and one of his students was a young man named George. Henry loved to go with George on expeditions in the countryside. George knew more about plants than anyone Henry had ever known. Henry peered over the edge of the water to inspect a plant growing on the bank. "Don't you get too close to that water, Henry," George said. "Your daddy will have a fit if you get eaten by a hippopotamus." Henry laughed. "Hippos don't live in Iowa. I'm just trying to get a better look at this flower." "You know, Henry, God gave us plants as a way to learn. We can use that knowledge to help others. It's a very important mission." "George, I want that to be my mission. Will you help me?" "Of course. Remember, Henry, God made you to make a difference, and I believe you will." Henry learned so much about plants that he grew up to be the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture. Then Henry Wallace became the Vice President of the United States of America. From that important office, Vice President Wallace, you can still call him Henry, continued his mission to learn how plants could help people. As Vice President, Henry wanted to help people around the world grow more food, so he hired a young man named Norman Borlaug. The same Norman who later developed the special seeds that grew into plants that fed the hungry people. So you see, because Henry is the one who came up with the idea of special seeds and hired Norman to make them, it was really Henry who changed the world. I want to tell you a story about the boy who changed the world. His name was George Washington. Now, before we continue, you must know that he is not the George Washington of whom you are thinking. The U.S. President George Washington lived a long time before the boy George Washington was in this story. George's father died before he was born, and his mother died when he was very young. But the good news is that a nice couple named Moses and Susan Carver adopted George and made him a part of their family. "Well, George, what have you got there?" asked his neighbor, Miss McLeod, as she plopped down on a tree stump beside the young boy. "I'm whittling a crutch for my friend who hurt his ankle." Just look at you, creating that from a big old tree branch. George, you've got a sharp mind and a kind heart. Thank you, ma'am, but it's not much. Won't take me too long. I bet your friend will be mighty grateful for that crutch. You know, George, little things can make a big difference. Everything we do matters. Every action you make, even small things, can change the world. Sure enough, George Washington Carver changed the world. He became a teacher and an inventor. For instance, he invented 226 things from the peanut that we still use today. From the sweet potato, George invented 88 things that we still use today. But he did something much more important than that. When George Washington Carver was at Iowa State University, he had a teacher named Professor Wallace. All weekends, George would roam the fields and forests with the professor's 6-year-old son, Henry, teaching the boy about plants and how many ways they could be used to help people. Now let's see. Norman made the special seeds that grew into super plants that fed the world's hungry people, but he couldn't have done that without Henry, who had the idea to make super plants and hired them. But Henry would not have had the idea without George, who spent so much time teaching young Henry about plants. So there you have it. George Washington Carver was the boy who changed the world. Wait, we forgot about his dad, Moses. I want to tell you a story about the boy who changed the world. His name was Moses Carver. He lived on a farm with his mom and dad way up north. Moses pulled nails out of some old barn wood while his pet rooster Buzz watched. "Moses," his mother called as she walked toward him in the field. "What are you doing?" "Well, I figured if I got these nails out of this wood, we could use it for something like patching the chicken coop or building a shed." "Thank you, Moses. That's a wonderful idea. I'm sure Buzz will appreciate it come winter," she said with a smile. "He hasn't helped with a single nail," Moses chuckled. "You know, dear, every choice you make, good or bad, can make a difference. I'm proud of you for making a good choice today." When Moses grew up, he married a lady named Susan, and together with the few workers, they managed a farm. They were very happy. But one night, some men tried to hurt them. Outlaws called Quantrill's Raiders rode into the farm. They buried down Moses' barn and kidnapped some of the workers. One of the people they kidnapped was a little boy named George. Moses had to do something. He searched and searched, finally found young George. Moses traded his favorite horse in return for the little boy. That night, as Moses walked home, remember, he didn't have a horse, he told George that he would adopt. Moses also promised to give the boy a new name. As the baby boy drifted off to sleep, Moses whispered, "Good night, little George Washington Carver." So if Moses hadn't saved George from the outlaws, George wouldn't have grown up to take Henry on walks in the forest. Then Henry wouldn't have become interested in plants and later hired Norman. Without Henry's idea, Norman wouldn't have developed the special seeds that grow into super plants. Without the super plants, 2 billion people would have nothing to eat. It's odd, isn't it? Every time something happens, something else happens. That's called the butterfly effect. When a butterfly flaps its wings, it moves teeny pieces of air that move other teeny pieces of air that move other teeny pieces of air. In fact, on the other side of the world, they might be feeling a big whoosh of wind, all because a butterfly flapped its wings here just a few minutes ago. That means every little thing you do matters. What you did yesterday, what you do today, and what you do tomorrow. God made your life so important that every move you make, every action you take matters. And not only for you or the people around you, everything you do matters for everyone and for all of time. When you think about it like that, wow, that means you can be the kid who changes the world. The end.
Lord and Taylor, A Story of Creation, authored by Tony Emehel, read by Madison Emehel. Lord and Taylor, A Story of Creation.
God gave life to his finest creation, the moment he knitted you together in your mother's heart. You are God's greatest miracle, created in his likeness, yet there is no other person in the world like you. You are God's greatest miracle. You are a rarity by design, a product of God's handiwork. You possess unique qualities, gifts, and talents as no other person who lives, has lived, or shall ever live. You are a rarity. God had you in mind from the very beginning of time. Even as his spirit hovered over the waters and divided darkness and light, God was familiarizing himself with you. He was plotting the exact date and time of your birth. God thinks of you. Know that you have always been a part of God's plan of creation, even before he created Adam and Eve as conduits of your eventual descent. You are part of God's plan. In preparing a place for you, God skillfully crafted waters to abound with living creatures and the birds to fly above the earth, blessing all with the ability to continually fill the sky and waters with life as a constant reminder of his omnipresence. God prepared a place for you. Then God spoke, saying, "Let the earth be filled with living creatures." But he held off creating you. Words alone were insufficient to manifest God's plan for your life. That is why God chose not to create you with mere words as he did all other living things. Instead, God created you in his image with the love and thoughtfulness of his hands. As his most excellent creation, God imparted a measure of intellect, consciousness, and a desire upon you that is uncharacteristic of any other life form. After adorning your head with the finest grade of numbered hairs and clothing you in the finest complexion of replenishing skin, God looked at your composition and knew without a doubt that he created a marvelous thing. Then he lovingly breathed his spirit into your lifeless body, making you the living being you are today. You are God's child and he is your father. You are the salt of the earth, chosen to live a life of significance. Your life should be a godly example in speech, love, faith, and purity of God's love. People should look at your life and be filled with hope of God's continued blessing. You are God's child. When God created you, he gave you the power to move mountains and overcome any obstacles that may stand in your way. He did this because he loves you. God loves you unconditionally, just as he loves his son, Jesus Christ. He has carried you close in his mind, in his heart, and in the palm of his hand, just as a shepherd carries a lamb. God loves you unconditionally. God desires for you to live a life of positive influence and success, surrounded by people who love and appreciate you as the unique being you are. When life becomes unpredictable, causing you to experience fear, doubt, disappointment, and or pain, know that God is always with you. When people who do not know or believe in God come into your life and cause you to become distracted from your purpose or stay away from God, know that God is a forgiving God and will warmly accept you back into his fold. God desires to establish you with all his heart and soul, but before he can do that, you must wholeheartedly devote your life to him and follow his original plan for your life. By doing so, you will discover that God will never leave you or turn his back on you. He is your greatest and most loyal friend. God knows you better than anyone in the world. He knows everything about you. He knows your innermost thoughts. He knows when you rise up to begin a brand new day. He even knows when you are feeling discouraged or simply experiencing a bad day. God knows everything about you. Remember that it is in God that you live, move, and have your being, because he is the one who created you. God is the Lord and Tailor of your life. With him all things are possible, and nothing is impossible. God is Lord and Tailor. The end.
Yogart the Ogre, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, authored by Shauna Sheldon, read by Madison Emehel. Yogart the Ogre, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
'Twas the night before Christmas in Mud Hollow Swamp. Not a sound could be heard, not a chew nor chomp. The tomats were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas would soon be there. All creatures were nestled and snug in their beds, while visions of taffy tarts danced in their heads. Mom tucked me in tight with a butterfly kiss. I drifted off to sleep in a warm state of bliss. When out on the lawn was a loud crash and bang. As quick as a bunny, I woke and I sprang. I zipped to the window as fast as I could go, pulled up the blinds and felt moonbeams' soft glow. Mud Hollow was dusted and snow gleaming white. It twinkled and sparkled on this winter's night. And then in amazement, I looked way up high as I watched Santa's sleigh streaming through the dark sky. What a jolly round fellow, so merry and quick. I knew right away that it must be Saint Nick. Faster than snowballs his reindeer they came, as he whistled and hollered and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, on the top of the house, up with the sleigh, now faster and faster, up and away. I scrunched up my eyes and rubbed at them too, but I wasn't dreaming. These reindeer, they flew. Over my head went Santa's sleigh full of toys, and they landed once more with a great crashing noise. And then there were footsteps I heard on the roof, and prancing and pawing with each little hoof. I flew down the stairs and watched full of glee as Santa's black boots came down the chimney. His feet did not touch, they just dangled and kicked. As soon as I could see what was up with Saint Nick, he slid down our chimney, but the space was too tight. He could not squeeze through, try as he might. Don't worry, Santa, I cried from below. His only response was a muffled ho-ho. I jumped to my feet. There was no time to waste. I needed help. To the kitchen I raced. I started with oil and butter and soap. I made a lasso out of ribbons and rope. I yanked and I pulled, I tugged and I tried. Then with a loud pop, out did Santa slide. His eyes twinkled like little stars, and his dimples, they smiled. His cheeks round like apples, and his nose like a child. His fine little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. He smiled at me, then he bent close to my ear. His whiskers, they tickled, but this I did hear. Well, thank you, young yogurt, for rescuing me. You saved this year's Christmas, that's plain as can be. Then he laid down our presents, and he filled my tomet, and he gobbled the cookies, ate every last bit. He smiled and he winked, and he walked out the door. With all his 8 reindeer to the sky he did soar. The room smelled of candy and bells filled the air as he flashed through Mud Hollow with no time to spare. But I heard him exclaim as he flew out of sight, Merry Christmas, dear yogurt, and to all a good night. The end.
Daddy's Little Girl, written by Bobby Burke, read by Madison Emehel. Daddy's Little Girl.
You're the end of the rainbow, my pot of gold. You're daddy's little girl to have and hold. A precious gem is what you are, your mommy's bright and shining star. You're the spirit of Christmas, my star on the tree. You're the Easter bunny to mommy and me. Your sugar, your spice, and everything nice, and your daddy's little girl. You're the end of the rainbow, my pot of gold, your daddy's little girl to have and hold. A precious gem is what you are, your mommy's bright and shining star. You're the treasure I cherish, so sparkling and bright. You are touched by holy and beautiful light, like angels that sing, a heavenly thing, and your daddy's little girl. The end.
The 9 Lives of Rotten Ralph, written by Jack Gantus, read by Madison Emehel. The 9 Lives of Rotten Ralph.
Rotten Ralph loved being Sarah's cat. He lived a charmed life of doing every rotten thing he wanted and never worried about his future. Until one morning when he woke up feeling very, very tired. He had spent the night being rotten with his ally cat friends. Now he could barely roll out of bed. He finally got up and drifted toward the bathroom. Suddenly he cried out loud. In the mirror he looked like a ghost. He was so pale he could almost see right through himself. "Sarah," he wailed. "Help me." Sarah came running to rescue Ralph. "Oh dear," she said when she saw him. "You don't look well. We better get to the vet." Ralph was afraid of the vet, but this time he was glad to go. "I hope she makes me drink awful-tasting medicine," Ralph thought. "Sarah always says the worse it tastes, the better I'll feel." The vet examined Ralph. Then she had some bad news for Sarah. "I've seen this before. Your cat has used up 8 of its 9 lives," she whispered. She pointed toward the 9 lives chart. "Sadly, I believe his best days are behind him. Number 1. Ouch. Number 2. Too bad. 3. Triple trouble. 4. Not good for you. 5. Halfway to cat heaven. 6. Risky business. 7. Time to take it easy. 8. Stay under the covers. 9. Next stop. Cat heaven. Good cats only." Sarah was puzzled. How could this happen? She asked. She took such good care of Ralph. Just then Rotten Ralph read the chart. He fainted and fell to the floor. Sarah picked him up. Ralph groaned. "Remember," warned the vet, as Sarah carried Ralph out the door. "He's down to his last life. One more slip, and he'll be gone forever." When they returned home, Sarah gently stretched Ralph out on the couch. She sat next to him and patted his worried brow. When he felt better, Sarah asked the big question that was on her mind. "Ralph," she said, "how did you lose so many lives?" "The first life I lost was when I was left behind at the circus," he said with a stiff sniffle. "They only fed me stale popcorn and rotten candied apples. They did me in. And I'll never forget the time Mr. Pierce caught me running wild in his poodle parlor," he moaned. "That was fun until he got me by the tail. Then there was the time you took me to school for show and tell," he recalled, shuddering, "and I knocked over the red ant farm, and the angry ants carried me away. They did not play nice." Ralph thought back to his cousin Piercy's Christmas visit. Ralph had been very rotten to Piercy, so Piercy had rolled a giant snowball off the roof. It landed on Ralph's head. "I don't think I deserve to lose a life over that." Ralph sniffled again. "What about the black cat you chased on Halloween?" Sarah asked as she wiped his eyes. Ralph whimpered. "What about the... That was a witch's cat, and it turned me into a carved pumpkin." And then he remembered his worst birthday ever. Ralph wouldn't share his cake, so everyone played pin the tail on the cat with him. "That was definitely not a happy birthday," he said softly. Suddenly, he thought of sweet Petuna. He had bought a squished stink bug to her Valentine's party. In return, she squished him like a bug. Ralph sighed. "Bettina was a lot tougher than I thought." But the worst was Mr. Fred. He carried me kicking and screaming into the self-control room at his cat obedience school. Ralph remembered, I was lucky to get out of there with just one lost life. Sarah counted up the lost lives on her fingers. That makes 8, she thought, and if those 8 lives were his best days, his future does not look bright. Well, Ralph, she announced, your rotten days are behind you. I'll protect you from here on out. First, she made certain Ralph did not do anything to hurt himself. She dressed him like he was a little baby kitten. She spoon-fed him in his old baby buggy. When Ralph went to eat a mouse, Sarah had to taste it first. It might be poison, she cautioned, but she took a bite. Disgusting, she announced, but safe. The more Ralph missed his old rotten life, the worse he felt. He looked out the window. All his cat friends were climbing trees. They were chasing squirrels. They were tiptoeing across laundry lines. Sarah's gone too far, he thought. The next morning, Sarah got ready for school. While I'm away, I want you to eat your vital vitamins and drink your anti-germ juice, she instructed. Rotten Ralph groaned. It would kill me to sit inside all day and do nothing. The moment Sarah was out the door, Ralph took off his baby clothes and leapt out a window. Life is not going to pass me by, he said. He ran into the aquarium and grabbed the electric eels. That shocked him back into action. He dashed over to the carnival and took a seat in the catapult. He was blasted all the way across town. It felt good to have so much rotten fun. Then he ran off looking for mean dogs to tease. When Sarah came home, Ralph was missing. Oh no, she cried. I knew I shouldn't have trusted him with his last life. She called out his name. She searched everywhere. She tacked up little posters of his picture, but she could not find Ralph. Finally, as she walked back home, she looked up at the stars. They seemed to form an outline of a cat in the dark night sky. I only hope he makes it into cat heaven, she says, sniffling sadly. But Ralph was not in cat heaven. He was safely snoozing on the couch. Sarah was so surprised, she jumped on him and gave him a big hug. Why, you rotten cat, she growled. You almost sent me to cat heaven. Don't do that, Ralph thought. I only have one life left. And for you, I've saved the best for last. The end.
Thank You World, written by Alice B. McGinty. Read by Madison Emehel. Thank you, world.
Thank you, sun, for waking up the morning and coloring the sky. Thank you, sky, for shining blue that calls me to touch you, swinging high. Thank you, swing. You shoot me like a rocket past birds and grass and trees. Thank you, grass, for softening my footsteps. I'm dancing with the breeze. Thank you, breeze, for lifting up my kite wings past treetops tall and proud. Thank you, trees. Your branches are my playhouse. I'm climbing to the clouds. Thank you, clouds, for painting cotton pictures and sending cool, sweet rain. Thank you, rain, for watering my flowers and washing my window pane. Thank you, window, you welcome in the moonlight that yawns from starry skies. Thank you, stars, for sparkling so brightly, you shine like Mommy's eyes. Thank you, Mommy, for tucking in my tiptoes and kissing me goodnight. Thank you, nighttime. Your soft gray shadows will touch my dreams tonight. The end.
This concludes the narration of Children's Story Hour with Madison Emehel. I hope this reading was a blessing to you. For additional audio readings of short stories and biblical passages, visit TonyEmehel.com.